Hey Warriors, this is Amy.
And I'm Sarah.
We are the hosts of The Unqualified Therapist.
We are not here to give you advice.
We are here to tell you our stories, share your stories, and bring on the professionals from time to time.
Mental health is complicated, and we know that from our personal experience.
We believe in professional therapy. Both Sarah and I use that on our own healing journeys.
But we also know it isn't one size fits all.
The stigma surrounding mental illness can make us feel alone.
We are not alone.
You are not alone.
And you're listening to the Unqualified Therapist's Inc.
Warrior. You don't know my struggle, you don't know my pain, you don't know my past, so you don't know who's to blame. You don't know my weakness, you don't know my fight. Ain't been in my darkness, so you never see my light. I bleed red like you won't get no proof. 'Cause even if I'm losing, I will never be defeated. And even if I'm crying, I won't never let you see it. So
I got it. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Unqualified Therapist. We have a very special guest today, and we have been bringing you some real amazing people, and we are just so excited that we have another one here. So
Yes,
Sarah's going to
we're
introduce
super
her.
stoked. Yeah, so today we're going to get to talk to Eugenia Davis, and she is the owner of a company called Dymanz Glaze, and it is a lip line. So it's got lip glosses and lipsticks, and I was looking at all of them, and I was like, yes, I need that. I'm like super excited about this chili mauve shade that
I
I've
know,
got
I
in
was
my
like, we should have
cart.
probably tried it first before we did this, so we
Yes.
could tell everyone how amazing it is, but we'll try it and we'll tell you.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm just going to real quick plug it for a minute because I'm really excited about it because it's vegan. But number one for me is that it's gluten free because I have a gluten intolerance. So that's like, I'm always looking for lipsticks that are gluten free. So sometimes it's really hard to find. So I'm so super excited about that. Anyway, Eugenia was kind of at a crossroads with her business and wanted to get more of a grasp on like what was going on there. And so she took that step and started going to therapy and has written this book called Therapy Saved My Business. And that, of course, for Amy and I was like, ooh, yes, we need to hear about that.
Yeah.
So we're real thankful to be talking to our author and entrepreneur, Eugenia Davis, today. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. How are y'all doing today?
We're
here.
We're here. It is a rainy, gray Pittsburgh day, but we're surviving.
Yes, that's like the norm in Pittsburgh. How is it in Dallas? Is that where you are?
Yes, I'm in Dallas.
Okay.
We had some really bad storms last night. There was a couple of tornadoes touched down, but we're in Texas, so we're back, in the swing of things the next day.
Yeah. Holy crap. If we had a tornado here, we'd be like shut down for a year.
Oh no. Here they're like a tornado's coming. We're like, all right, let's go out on the porch, guys, and see. We're like out there to watch.
Storm chasing. Oh my.
No, I'd be like, we're all gonna die.
It's funny because what you're not used to, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I would feel the same way. I'd be like, definitely dying here.
Yes.
No tornadoes for me.
No, definitely not. Oh, so we're so excited to have you here. So why don't you start telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey, how you got into this type of business?
And you can go as far back as you want, or yeah.
Tell us all the things.
Okay, awesome. Of course, my name is Eugenia Davis. I'm 32 years old. I am a mom of three. I am of three girls, as a matter of fact. I'm
God bless you.
I know, right? Pray for me. And honestly, like what got me here, I was just interested in business. My grandmother ran a telemarketing center here in Dallas. She ran Avon back in the day on Wall Street in New York City.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I saw that she was an entrepreneur. I didn't know that. Holy cow.
Yes. So it's like something that's in my blood. My dad was an attorney. So just being an entrepreneur was something important to me. And of course, you go through your phases of, let me do this, let me try this. And it was kind of like having to narrow down exactly what it was that I wanted to do. And honestly, what got me into the lipstick line and lip gloss line is because I didn't start wearing lipstick till I was 26. Yeah, I was 26.
Wow.
Whoa.
I feel like I
Wow.
was like born with red lipstick on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at work one day and everybody was like, oh, this is my favorite lipstick. This is my favorite color. And they's like, what's yours? And I was like, I don't wear lipstick. And everybody's like, oh, you don't wear lipstick? And I was like, no, I don't wear lipstick.
They're like, for shame.
Yeah. They was like, no, we got to get you some right now. And there was a lady at my job who worked part-time at a beauty store. And they was like, where is she? Where is she? We got to get her some lipstick today. And so they start playing with, lipsticks at work. And I was like, I do look good. I like this.
Yes. I love it.
My look was missing. So that's how I kind of got started into the lipstick line. Of course, making sure that my line was vegan, cruelty-free, gluten-free. That was something that was very important to me. I do have family members who do have gluten allergies and things like that. And I do know how hard it is to find products. And now it's a lot better. But throughout times, even going out to eat was a challenge, having a gluten allergy. So that kind of stuff was just very important to me when starting a business. And kind of what got me to my book is I was at a crossroad because I'm like, man, I've had a few businesses. It's not working out. What is going on? Like, what's going on here? And something one day was like, hey, you need to try therapy. And I didn't think therapy would go hand in hand with business. But when the most important asset to the company is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of.
I love that saying. That's a great saying. Yeah. So what, and you can share as little or as much as you'd like. We are pretty open on here. So we've shared all kinds of stuff,
Awesome.
In terms of our mental health journeys. But what was it that was holding you back when you got into therapy? What kind of things did you learn that really helped you to succeed in your business? What
I learned was that I didn't realize that a lot of my emotional identity came from my mom. And so I was kind of reenacting a lot of my childhood trauma and just things that I grew up seeing and, just different relationships, how to handle situations. And it really dawned on me, sorry, Mom, but it dawned on me that, my mom wasn't really consistent in a lot of things. And I had to figure out, why am I not being consistent? What's keeping me from being consistent? Because if you're going to start something, the point is to see it through,
Right.
So that was something I really found out in therapy. And I really, had to understand that my problem was my self-esteem. That was a big thing for me. My self-esteem just wasn't where it needed to be when it came to believing in myself to push myself, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about how lonely it gets sometimes. Like you're going crazy, you're working hard, and everybody's like, hey, we're out hanging out. What are you doing? And you're like, yeah, getting things together, trying to give a business.
I'm still working.
Right, exactly. And it's really hard if you're a full-time worker and you're trying to get your business to the point where you can be a full-time entrepreneur. It's very emotionally taxing. And it's just something we don't talk about enough, in my opinion. Just because, as an entrepreneur, everybody wants to be like, yeah, I'm getting there, I'm knocking out goals and things like that. But we don't talk about how tired we are, how we need more hours in the day, how we wish we could hire like a staff of 10 tonight.
Yes. We say that. We say that every day.
All the time. Like, we need a full staff.
Right. It gets very challenging. So,
they would have to work on volunteer basis.
Yeah.
Right. Any interns, please?
Yeah, exactly.
Apply here.
Yeah.
You want to gain some experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that definitely, that's what I really had to come in therapy, was learning that I needed to believe in myself and figuring out why I didn't feel like I was confident enough or, believed in myself the way I did. And
Mhm.
my dad is Nigerian, so um, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure, having a dad from another country and, expectations and things like that. So I think the hardest thing on my dad is when I was like, I think I want to quit college. And my family was
Oh,
like, "Oh my
yeah.
God." She
Oh,
said she does. Yeah, yeah. I was like, "Dad, I
Mhm.
don't think I want to do this." Like, no. So, yeah, just had to really learn to build confidence in myself and believe in myself, and get those roadblocks out the way for me to get to the next level in my business and personal life.
did you feel like they had a place that they expected you to go, like like the way that your life would play out? Your
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. When you have parents, especially coming from family members who were successful, like I said, my dad was an attorney here in the state of Texas for quite some time. So it was this very high level of expectation. And when you don't feel like you're meeting that expectation,
Mhm.
it's just like you kind of self-destruct. You just start
Mhm.
judging yourself. You start, feeling like, what is it about me? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? And my younger siblings, they're like, "Oh, I can't wait to go to college. I can't wait to graduate." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rub it in.
Right, right. Well, so with your father coming from another country and working here in the US like that and just building like he built himself up. He has, this he has supported his family and it's like the he achieved the American dream. So
Yeah.
I can definitely see how you would be like, "Oh, dear God." Like you have put the weight of the
Exactly.
world on my shoulders like, "Oh my gosh." So how did you find like the freedom to say like, okay, this is what I want to do, so I'm going for it and I'm going to do it?
It was really my grandmother. My grandmother, I would talk to her, and she was like, "You need to talk to your parents. I'll talk to your parents, and they need to understand that you are who you are. You have your own paths, you have your own dreams, and you have your own goals, and
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with that. You can't fit yourself into someone's image." And she was like, they want the best for you. They want you to have a great life. However, you can't, it just doesn't always work that way. So I had to build the courage to really talk to
Mhm.
my parents about that. And I'm not gonna lie, it was very, very, very hard because I didn't want to feel like I was disappointing my dad or
Yeah.
disappointing my mom. And that was such, very heavy on me. And I think well, I don't know. It's not what I think. I know what set me free is my dad never wanted me to feel like that I had to choose between him and what he wanted. And so knowing
That's
that,
great.
yeah, no, knowing that
No,
my
not
dad,
all parents are like that, so
right.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it really was. It just brought a sense of comfort because, in my culture, there's a right way, of doing things. And so for my dad to stand up and say, "You know what, I don't care. I love you no matter what. You're my child. You're going to be great no matter what you do." It was a huge relief, for me.
Wow.
But, right, I didn't work through those emotions. So it wasn't until later in life, I had to work through that because even though my dad took the pressure off of me, I didn't realize I was still putting that pressure on myself.
Mhm, mhm.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So
That makes so
yeah.
much sense.
it does. So I always wanna know because it's like right now, in this point of my life, talking about therapy is like nothing. It's like, I woke up this morning, I went to therapy. Like that's like the two things are so common to each other, it's like nothing. But before I started going to therapy and my doctor told me I needed to go to therapy, I was like, I don't need to go to therapy. It's like, I'm fine. Don't tell me that. I don't need that. I don't even think I told you this, Amy, but I thought like I had my own like stigma around it and thought that she was basically insulting me by telling
Mm.
me I needed to go to therapy. And so I'm just curious, like, did you have any hangups about going? Because, and I want, like, I want to make sure that we specifically address this because, as a Black woman in America, I know that there's just not a lot of focus around the Black mental health care system. And I know that there's not anyone outside of your culture that can fully understand you enough to give to conduct therapy, besides another Black American. So just, can you talk to us about that, and if there was like a struggle to find the right person? I know that was a lot.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. But honestly, I'm so glad you brought it up because it is something that's very important in, the African American community. Therapy is kind of like a stigma,
Yeah.
and a lot of it is behind, finances. It's like
Mhm.
for a lot of African Americans to go to therapy, that means you have money. That's a luxury item.
Mhm.
So,
Mm.
it was important for me to explain, especially during COVID. I was explaining to people like, hey, you might want to call your HR. You might want to start calling around. Sometimes they have sliding scales based off of your income
Yeah.
because there
Yeah.
there was a lot of stigma around it, and it was like,
Yeah.
someone as strong as you, someone who's as
Mhm.
headstrong and just going for it, like, you need therapy. And I'm like, absolutely. Like, and it's like, did you want to kill yourself? And I'm like, no, 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 it doesn't have to
I
get
just
to
want to
that
talk to
point.
somebody.
Right. And I'm like, if you feel like there's somebody you need to talk to outside of the group of people that you talk to, and you need some very valuable information that can help change your life, then I tell people, then that's a sign that, you may want to look into therapy. And I really started helping to educate people around me on the affordability
Yes.
of it. Because there are options, especially during COVID,
Mhm.
especially during COVID. There are a lot of jobs who know that their workers are, they're not used to being home. They're not used to being with their kids all the time. So there were companies that were like, hey, we purchased this, product, to help you guys out. So I was trying to do my best to
Wow.
make people aware of that, because it is a stigma. And after, like, just on my personal Facebook, I was just talking to people, and people were inboxing me like, wow, you know what, I do think I need therapy, and I just don't want people to call me crazy. And I'm
Mm.
like, people are still calling people crazy for going to therapy in
Oh,
2021,
yeah.
2020.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you'd be
They are. You'd
surprised.
be
It's
surprised.
bad. In fact, like the fact that your company provided something like that is incredible. Because there's a lot of
Yeah.
places that once they know that you've got some sort of mental health, not even like issue, but just like concerns, or you want to talk to somebody, then sometimes it's like, okay, that's it. You've got this stigma attached to you, and we're gonna, start to beat you down.
And a lot of people were, that was their fear. Like, if I do go to HR, if I do bring it up, are they gonna, be concerned? And I was telling them like, hey, you don't even have to go to HR. If you want
Yeah.
to contact your doctor and, talk to, because they like, my regular doctor. I'm like, yes, your regular doctor can refer you
Yeah.
to a specialist. When I started telling people that they have literally, it's like 4 or 5 hours a day. It's people who are on stress leave. They go to these classes and they literally help them work through their issues that they're having at work.
Mhm.
And so when I started telling people about that, they were like, really? Like, this is real? And I'm like, yes, and you can take time off of work, and do that. But a
Mhm.
lot of people didn't even know they could take a stress leave. They didn't know that they could go to their doctor and their doctor will refer them to someone. So it was just very important for me, to tell my story to help other people, just understand, like, it's
Mhm.
okay.
Well, you're
It's okay.
you're
It
you're
helped me.
educating people. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're educating
Hmm.
people, and I think a lot of people
Which is
don't know that
huge.
sliding scale, which is a big deal because even thinking about, like, whether you have insurance or don't have insurance that covers it, all you have to do is talk to the person, and they have that space for those people who can't necessarily pay their hourly rate. But that's not something people know, that's not advertised. So I think it's amazing that you were educating others in that realm, in that area where they don't, where the information isn't just out there easy for you to grab, or you wouldn't even think to look for it.
Right.
Exactly. Like it, and like you said, it's something as a simple conversation. And I'm like, I know personally you don't want to walk in the office like, hey, I don't have any money. Like you don't want to just say like, hey, I don't have any money. But I tell them like, think about the benefits. Like, is this really benefiting you? Sometimes you have to see multiple therapists. They
Yes.
like, what if I don't like them? And I'm like, hey,
You got to shop around.
just it's well, yeah, you have to shop around. I'm like, this is like any other business out there. If it does not work for you, then you have to try something else. So, it's little things like that. People are so afraid. And you're right. And I didn't forget your question. Being an African American woman, finding an African American therapist, especially one that specializes in trauma,
Mm-hmm,
Mm,
mm-hmm.
is not easy. It's not easy at all. And, I did have to educate people on that, helping them understand that, because some people are like, well, it wasn't that bad. And I'm like, trauma is trauma.
right.
Like, I had to learn
Yeah.
that there's no level,
Yeah.
but so many people think that there's a level 1 and a level 10.
Yeah.
And if I didn't reach 10, then it's not that bad. And I'm like, no, trauma is trauma, honey.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter how little or how great it impacted you.
Mhm.
You got to work through that.
Yeah. We talk about that a lot, because there are people that are like, "Oh, well, your story is just so much worse than mine." And I'm like, we're like, "No."
Yeah.
No one's story is worse than someone else's. It's that if you experience the trauma and it traumatized you, then it's a traumatic experience. Then that
And
is trauma that you've
right.
experienced.
And I think people don't always realize that it's trauma. Whatever the
Right.
the thing that's happening in their life that they don't like, or the cycle that they're on, it's not until you get into therapy that you're like, "Oh shit, that's what that is. That's why I'm
Yeah.
doing these things over and over again or making these same
Right.
decisions. It was because of some sort of trauma."
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was something I learned for myself in therapy because I'm just going to be honest, in certain environments and you're around certain people, you believe that this is life
Yeah.
Mm,
and this is just how it is. So you don't question, is this normal? Is this not normal when that's all you're surrounded by?
Mhm.
And so when I started going through therapy and I started realizing that I had all these trauma bonds and I was connecting myself to people who, in so many words, went through similar traumas as me, it really shocked me because I was like, oh my
mhm.
God, like we're all in this boat and we didn't really realize the real significance of the foundation of our friendship.
Yeah.
And so
It's true.
that
It's
was
really
something
true.
Yeah.
that was important. Sometimes I have to tell, oh, I'm stressed out because I'm like, what is the foundation of this relationship? And is
Mhm.
it worth having?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's something like, I mean, I think that this is something that I'm just now, I mean, I'm going to be 40 this year, that I'm just now starting to like embrace. It's like, cuz you feel like, oh, well, I've had this relationship forever. So, and this is just how it is. So, that's it. Like, I'm just going to continue in this relationship and not worry about it, and, or continue to worry about it and have all these stressful interactions, instead of saying like, is this is this really healthy for me to stay in a relationship that's founded and built on like gossip and talking shit on people, and just like
Complaining.
complaining, and
Mhm.
like that's
Yeah.
not something I I don't have time for that. Like, I don't want to spend any of my energy on shit like that. Like, I would rather be focusing on much more of like evolved things, and trying to make a difference and doing things besides that. So that's a great point. Excellent
And
point.
the same thing, the transition you went through, I did started going through that in therapy because it's one thing I haven't really heard anybody talk about it. But one thing I really don't hear people express that I do express is that when you start therapy and you start the process of healing, people don't look the same to you anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't sound the same to you
Yep.
anymore. It's like you
Yes.
have new glasses on and you like, wow, I really can see. This is crazy.
Yes.
I always
I've
say it's like you
never
took the pill in the Matrix, like, you're just like, "Oh, crap. This is it. This is it."
This is reality. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For
I
sure.
don't think I've ever put my finger on that. So
Yeah,
it was great
like
to hear you say that. I don't think I've ever, like, really thought. I mean, I've noticed where I'm just like, "Wow, they don't seem the same to," it's like this is seems tainted. Like, talking to them now, I'm just kinda like, "Ugh," but yeah.
exactly. And it's like, because that was happening to me, and I was like, do we talk about this like all the time? And they was like, yeah, yeah, like this is what we do. And I'm like, wait, really?
Yeah.
No, this isn't right. We can't keep doing this. This is not right. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's something I do tell people, like, hey, I'm gonna warn you, I don't want to scare you, but just know that your world is going to change and people are going to look different. And it's something that's another issue in itself, is learning how to navigate in
Mhm.
this new world that you're healing in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's something different. Like, I've been friends with people for over a decade, and I'm like, you know what?
Mhm.
I don't think I'm gonna go to dinner with you this week.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna go with somebody else.
Yes. I
Yeah.
know.
It's really hard. It's really hard to come to that realization, and it hurts. It hurts everybody. It's just you're like, "But maybe you should go to therapy and you'll figure it out and then we can come back together."
Yeah.
And that's funny you said that, because my best friend, she did that. She was like, we was talking about all my sessions and how I was growing and how I was learning so much. And she told me, like, she started going to therapy because she was like, I just saw a different side of you. And she was like, the amount of happiness you have, the amount of joy you have. She was like, I wanted to feel that myself. And she was like, but part of me didn't want to feel like I couldn't relate to my friend anymore.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow.
So she decided to start her, journey through therapy. And she's like, you know what? I'm so glad you took that leap, because if you didn't, I probably wouldn't have done it myself. And she was like, my relationship with my children is better. Like, I'm just learning so much. So, sometimes, it can have a trickle effect on people. And,
Yeah, for
some
sure.
relationships, people need to maintain that. And they're willing to do, what it takes to maintain that friendship or that relationship, even though I don't personally require it. I think my biggest problem was boundaries. That was the worst
Mm,
issue that I had, was boundaries.
I think everybody does. But I like, what a good friend. I just feel like we have to I don't know what's her name?
Her name is Tatiani.
Tatiani, you are an amazing friend.
yeah, shout
That
out
is
to
I
that
would
is
her.
tell her, she's
somebody you need to, like,
Yeah.
hold on to, because, like, for somebody to do that and say, "You know what? I wanna make our friendship better. I wanna understand what you're saying better," and then taking the steps to do that, that's an amazing friend.
yeah, it really changed our friendship a lot, because, we grew up together. And so now it's like, we're women, it just like it helped me expand my business. She was like, you know what? I just want to do more with my life. And she was like, I could just see things so much clearer. So it's just like now our friendship just has evolved to a mature level where we can just have real conversations with one another about, some serious heavy topics. So she's an amazing friend. I tell her, I was like, I'm gonna tell people about you. You just good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's so great. That is
So
so great.
I
Sorry, go
want
ahead, Amy.
I was just going to ask about your journey with writing a book, how that came about, and how you decided to share your story, and kind of how you went about doing that. Because I think that it's so important to share the story so that other people can hear it and learn from it. And you do so much word of mouth, which is great. But like now that it's in a book, lots of people can see it.
Yes, honestly, I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to write a book. And I started writing a book, and then I'll stop, and then I'll start writing a book, and then I'll stop. And then it wasn't until me and my friend, we were talking, and she was just like, I tell people the things that I'm learning and things that you're learning. And she was like, it's just so much to constantly have to reiterate to
Yeah.
people. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, well, that's just, what we do. We help people. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to write the book. And it was very, very hard for me to write the book, because I'm a very private person. Like, I don't really,
Mhm.
post my personal life on social media. Like, nobody knows what I ate for dinner last night or nothing. So for me to be that vulnerable, and know so many people here in Dallas that know me, know my family. And that was another issue, another thing too. I didn't want
Yep.
to, you know, put my family out there too. So I was like, you know what? I want to write this book. And then my family's like, about what? And I was like, never mind. Never mind. You'll just see. I was like, you'll just
What are
see.
you
But
gonna say?
it was very, like, what are you gonna say? Are you putting names in
Yeah.
there? My mom's like, do I need a lawyer?
Right.
I'm like, Mom.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm like, no. But it was very hard for me to write about certain things in a book, especially about my childhood and getting my identity from my mom. But honestly, I would watch comedy shows while I would write my book. I would do it late at night when everybody was asleep, have me a glass of wine, and I would just watch comedy shows while I wrote my book. So when it got to the painful part, I could just hear something funny going on in the background and just laugh and kind of take my attention off. And there was a few times I was like, I don't think I'm going to submit this book. I don't think I want people to know me like that. And it was like it was just something in me told me, what's more important, what people think of you or helping someone.
Yeah.
What's more important to you? And I was like, you know what? I closed my eyes and I was like, send.
Oh, wow.
That's some good advice, because that's, I'll tell you, Amy and I are both writing books, and for me, one of my biggest hangups is I'm like, do I want people to know this about me? But we have kind of thrown that out the window with this podcast, because I feel like everybody knows like
Everything.
every single thing you could possibly. Now I'm like, oh, it doesn't even matter. I can just write this book. It's fine. But before that, I was like, oh, I don't know. Just had all these hangups.
Yeah, you think that because I mean we get on social media, we see all the people, the trolls, and we see that kind of stuff. But the amount of support I had, even people I used to work with, they was like, you always were smiling, you was so funny. Like I had no idea, like that is what you were going through. And they was like, it changed their perception as well to just be more understanding of the people around them, because they were like, you're just a ball of fun all the time. And, we just never thought, you were struggling. So it was just a feedback really, really amazed me. And I think one of the most amazing things was I had a guy, he was like in his late 40s, I want to say. And he came up to me and he was like, he's a friend of a friend. And he was like, I just want you to know I read your book. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you so much for supporting me. And he was like, no, I read your book. He's like, I'm a 40-something-year-old man. And he was like, you helped me see a lot.
Oh, wow.
I got chills.
And I was like,
me too.
And I was just like, well, thank you. And I was like, well, if you, just to make, because I'm horrible in, super serious situations. I'm like, I appreciate that. And I was like, I didn't even think my book was that good. And he just started laughing.
See, that's that self-confidence.
There you go. I was like, I didn't even think it was. He's like, no. He's like, this book, really was good. He's like, I asked, because his children are older, of course. And he's like, I asked him to read the book, figure out what you want to do in life. Is there something that I can help you with as a parent? He said it made him think about his parenting, like what effect he had on his children. And I just thought that was amazing.
Incredible.
That is incredible.
I'm like, I'm not licensed. People like, what are your credentials? I'm like, human.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I love that line. I'm quoting you on that one. I love that.
Yeah, because, we are no credentialed, quote, air quote, therapists. We are the unqualified therapists. So it's like, yeah.
And when I heard the title of your show, I was like, this is genius. Yes. Genius. I love it.
Thank you. Oh,
I love it. I listened to the episode, It's Not Scarapy.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, man, I'm going to love talking to them. I was like, I'm going to love this because, I mean, everything that the questions that were asked, like even from the therapist, like she was like, we're nervous too. And I'm like, you know what? I never thought about
No,
that.
neither
She's
did
like, we're
we.
people too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
We are
crazy.
people too. And I was like, you know what? That's so true. And, after that, I kind of asked a couple of people, like, well, if you go to a therapist, like, what would you think? Like, would you be nervous? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. I would think, like, is this person judging me? Like, this person has a career, they
Mhm.
have their stuff
Mhm.
together. And I'm like, wow, like, we just literally take the title and we forget the whole person.
The
Right.
person part of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the human part of it.
Yeah, we forget about the whole humanity part of
Mhm.
it. Like, we just focus on the title and we're just so ashamed of our issues.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
hearing that from the therapist, I was like, you know what? That's good stuff. I like this show.
Oh,
Yay. Oh,
thank
that
you.
makes me so happy. Thank you. Oh, and that's one of our, like, very first ones, so I'm like, "Ooh."
I was
You said
immediately, I
that
was
was the
like,
one
"Oh
you
my god, the sound, the sound. Oh."
I know. We have run into a lot of tech issues in
We
case
this
you
has
can't
been
tell
a
from
this has
listening
been
to us. Yeah,
evolving. We're getting there. We're
it
getting
has.
there, but you just jump in and do it in the beginning because that's just what we do, right? Just
Yeah,
figure it
yeah.
out as you go.
Figure it out as we go.
That's all you can. I used to do YouTube videos where we would have people write in because I would have so many people telling me their business, and I'm like, oh my God, like I know people going through a similar situation. So I was like, hey, why don't you write me anonymous, just
Mhm.
write your letter anonymously and I'll make a video. It was me and my friend, and we will respond to people's situations. And it kind like I we were people were like, oh my God, I saw your episode, and yes, that is so true. And I'm like, hmm,
There's
okay.
something
But
to
the
this.
technical
Yeah.
difficulty part, because we've recorded whole episodes, I'm talking about like an hour, and I'm like, where are
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Same, retweet
Where are
that.
you?
Yeah, like, we're
Where
same
to
thing.
go? I
Yeah.
swear to God, it was here.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, cell phones?
No.
No. I had this high def camera, and then like I didn't even know certain memory
Oh,
cards work
yeah.
differently. I was like, oh my
It's so
goodness.
much. So much.
It is. So I understand
Yeah.
when you talk about the technical and you like just jump into it because that's what
Yeah.
we did. We jumped into it. Our camera,
Yeah.
our phone was all
Yeah.
wobbly.
Yeah, we're like, "Let's do
Absolutely.
this." Yeah. I got a
Absolutely.
microphone, plug this in, let's go, let's go.
Let's just start talking. We know how to talk. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
So,
they're not worried about that.
you have mentioned, humor a couple different times because you said you were watching, like, some comedy specials, and then you mentioned that some coworkers said you were funny, and you are. Um, I agree. So talk to us about that because we use, humor a lot as a coping mechanism. Amy and I do. So is that something
We
that
all
you find to be helpful?
and we always feel like we have to preface it
Yeah.
because
We're like,
people
"We're not
think
laughing at
we're not
you. We're not
laughing.
laughing at
Like, I'm not
people."
making light of the situation I had. I'm just
Right.
saying that I'm making a joke because that's just what I do. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, so have you done similar things?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would tell people like, what you're so funny. You just come up with the funniest things. And I'm like, yeah, well, when you're in a lot of pain, it happens. And they're laughing. And I'm like, no, I'm
Like,
serious,
"No, for
guys. Like,
real."
no, not right now. But no, humor is a coping mechanism. And honestly, like going through therapy, I see comedians different as well because even when
Mm,
they're telling their
Yep.
stories, talking about their past and their childhood, I'm really realizing like they didn't get the proper help
yeah.
that they
Mhm.
needed. So learn to cope. And honestly, I have to say this. Ooh, Black Twitter, don't come for me. But as as a Black community, that's what we do. We laugh, like we just laugh our way through the
Yeah.
pain. And so, you
Yeah.
see all these funny tweets and just, all this. And I'm like, man, I bet you they're probably going through so much at that house, but they are funny. But humor is
Yeah.
definitely something I hide my nervousness behind humor.
Mhm.
If I want to have a
Mhm.
difficult conversation, I'll hide it around humor. And so I'm learning how to separate that, and I did used to have to preface my jokes or like, I didn't mean that because I have to be honest, my sense of humor is a little dark. So I'll make a joke and then be like,
Same.
that's funny, but
Yep.
that's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
mean. I'm like, well, so yeah, I get it. I get it. When you've been through some things, you like,
Mhm.
that's just life. You'll be okay.
Right, exactly, exactly. We're like, "We'll get through this, it's fine." Uh,
We got through
Yeah,
the rest
no,
of
no
it. It's
worries.
okay.
yeah, it'll be fine.
Hey, you want a drink? You hungry?
Yeah, exactly.
That cures
Yes,
everything.
it does. Yes, it does. Oh, man. I mean, and we were talking about trauma and how everybody has, like, some kind of trauma during their life, and, I think you bring up a really good point by saying that, like, the African American community uses a lot of humor, like, that's how you get through things, because, I mean, y you have overt trauma as well as subtle and, like, just things that, sometimes that you're like, "Wait a second, what did they just fucking say to me?" Like, or, things like that that sort of don't hit you until later or and then being a woman, period, that's also a traumatic
Yeah.
experience. So, I can absolutely see where that would be, as an African American community, be a large coping mechanism.
Oh,
'Cause there's pain
absolutely. Absolutely.
every single day.
It, it is. It is. And it's like, it's so hard because sometimes you feel like, will we get an answer to certain things? Will things really change? Or do I just have to learn how to cope,
Mhm.
with certain scenarios
Yeah.
that are going on and certain things that happen? And, for me, being a mom of three, you, therapy is something that's so important because I never want my children to get desensitized. Like, you
Yeah.
Mm,
don't have feelings, you
Mhm.
don't connect with the human side of
Yeah.
life. Like everything is just, this is what it is. Oh well, that's not about me. I don't care. So it's very tough with social media, with everything going on, because I mean these kids now, they know more than we do. They like, hey,
yeah.
you heard what Biden did? I'm like, what? I was at
Yes.
work. What happened?
Yes. Our kids are like our 2 oldest, my son and her daughter are like, they know everything that's going on.
Yeah.
They
My
do.
daughter teaches
They
me
do.
Yeah. I'm like, "Where'd you learn that?"
Yeah.
TikTok.
TikTok.
I hear that all the time. Oh, mom, I learned this new trick
Mhm.
on how to do nails. And I'm like, who taught you that? They're like,
On
on
TikTok.
TikTok. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay. Out phone, 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
That's it. 1 hour a
Yeah.
day. So yeah, but it's very, as a community, when it comes to mental health, I'm just happy that we're starting to talk about it
Yes.
more. People like Taraji P.
Mhm.
Henson and, Viola Davis and, other celebrities even talking about their mental anguish,
Mhm.
because people think, a lot of people think money solves everything. And it's like, no, it doesn't.
No.
Right.
Money doesn't
Mm-mm.
make people love you. Money doesn't make people respect
Right.
you. There are things money just can't buy in life. And, human interaction, as much as, I think COVID really taught people the importance of relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because
It
we
did.
weren't able to
Yes.
interact. We couldn't go anywhere. And we really started realizing, like, I need to be around people to some extent. Like, I will go
Right.
crazy.
Right. Yeah, like, I'm a hermit, like, total introvert, like, I'll hide out in my house all day long, but, co
When they
after COVID, I was like, "Get me out of here." I was like, "I need to talk to somebody, like, that's not a child and doesn't, like, live within 5 feet of me."
did any
Seriously.
other
No,
I was just going to ask, did any other members of your family go and seek out any sort of therapy after you were going and having so much success?
yes. So my mom started therapy.
Whoa!
My brother started therapy. Yeah, my sister started therapy.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, one of my cousins, he recently reached out to me. I think it was like maybe a week ago. And he was like, he went to his doctor and they was like, we could take you off of work, but you might want to. He's like, no. I told my doctor, like, no, I'm having issues deeper than work. I need to work on this. And I was like, whoa. So,
Wow.
to see the transition in my family, And even
Incredible.
how we
Wow.
interact is starting to change. Like it's starting to change because we were the type of family like, I'm mad at you. I'm not talking to you. When you get your mind right, you'll come and talk to me. And so now to have, one of the elders in my family to say, I
Mhm.
apologize.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I didn't intend for that to come out that way, or that wasn't my intention. Like it's huge. It's huge. And, for me, it it makes me emotional because I never thought that something as simple as me trying to figure out how to make more money would have
Yeah.
such a huge impact on my family in a different way, and even
Right.
just my friendships and the people around me. Even to the point where some of my coworkers was like, hey, what's your therapist's name, or what are you doing, because they like, there's no way you're happy here.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
Oh man.
yeah, it's been an incredible journey. Like just watching my life change, even my relationship with my children. I think one of the most difficult conversations, and a lot of adults were shocked, family members, friends, when I told my children, I said, listen, I sat my children down and I told my children, listen, mommy is going through therapy. Mommy doesn't know the answers to everything.
Mhm.
I know you probably think I should, but I don't. And I told him there was a lot of things that mommy thought was correct,
Mm.
but it wasn't correct.
Yeah.
And I apologized to my
Yeah.
children
Wow.
because I know sometimes just an apology is like so
Mhm.
powerful, just the acknowledgement.
Right.
And even though my children never just flat out said anything about me, or, you just know
Mhm.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from that day forward, me and my children are closer than we've ever,
Mm.
ever been, ever
That's
been. So,
That's beautiful. And I think,
thank you. Like it really has changed my family a lot, though.
yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Talk about changing like generational ways.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you made that choice and you're not only changing your children, the generation below you, but the generation above you too. Like that's just like, whoa. That doesn't happen all the
Right.
time. So that's fantastic that was such a ripple effect on both ends.
Yeah.
And honestly, I had no idea. Some people, they start doing things the right way, and they're like, "Hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to do that." And then, I didn't want, I didn't want to be that person. So I would just do subtle things like, "Hey, I know before I would, entertain that. I don't think that's something that I want to do anymore, or I'm working on myself in that area, so I don't want to do that." And it started really making people see like, okay, I'm going to have to adjust myself in order to
Mhm.
continue this, even having a general conversation with her. I have to change myself or change my approach. And so it just led to some very deep and open conversations. But, I thank you so much, because like I said, I just had no idea that it would grow,
Mhm.
to this level, as far as reaching my family and friends like that. I didn't know.
Well,
And so I was like, hey, I got a
yeah.
book, guys. Let's reach some
let's
more
let's
people.
let's get it out to everybody. Yeah, I just that's so incredible. I think that it's really important to hear you say too that you would like stop and be like, "Hey, I know I entertained this before, but I'm not going to anymore." Because Amy and I talk about a lot how we have a hard time vocalizing things like that. And so we just sit back and are like, oh, should I say something? Should I not say something? Like, if I say
Mhm.
something, are they going to be mad at me? Is it going to change? So for you to just have that, is that something that you had to find, or is that just kind of like you have that in you where you're just like, listen, this is how it is?
It's my
Yeah.
personality, but I'm a softie when it comes to the people that I'm close with. Like I get really emotional about them, but I had to think like, you know, do I want to just keep this relationship the way it is to appease them and just, or do I want to do the right thing and let them know I love you so much
Mhm.
that I'm willing to potentially, have a little
Right.
disagreement, just for you to understand, my side. Because, I'm not mad if they say, hey, I don't agree with that. I'm like, you know what, you're right. You have the right to feel that way, and I respect that. But the same way I respect you, I just want you to respect me. And there was some difficult conversations I had to have with certain people. There are certain people that we don't talk at all because in their mind, oh, she got her book and she got her business,
She
so oh yeah, she bougie
That's just
now.
jealousy, though. That's just jealousy, talking and them wanting to have what you have. So, but they should be supporting you and proud of you instead. But that's those ones that you can just say, bye, peace out.
Right. So, I was like, hey, it took a little work, but it ultimately I have way more positive feedback than I did negative,
Mhm.
and even some of the negativity, they would later come back and be like, you know what? I talked to some other people and they helped me see, your side of things. Like you wasn't attacking me. And I was like, no, I would never
Yeah.
attack you. I love you. You're my friend, or you're my brother, you're my sister. I would never attack you, but I'm trying to change myself. And in order to change me, I explain to people, this is a daily
Yep.
decision. Like
Yeah.
you're having to make decisions numerous times a day. So I told him every time something happens, I'm literally having to retrain my
Mhm.
way of thinking by saying, I can't respond like that anymore, or I can't be involved in that,
Yeah.
anymore. I will support you, I will be there for you, but to get involved like I used to,
Look at you
no,
putting up your
I can't do
boundaries.
that.
I know. I'm like,
Yes,
Wow,
I
note,
was
take
girl.
notes.
like,
Create
I'm like, yeah,
boundaries.
like this is how you do it. I would like that's
Yeah.
just such a good explanation because we say boundaries all the time and I have issues. We all do, but that's that's a really perfect example of,
Mhm.
I'm retraining my brain. Therefore, I cannot participate in this because that's going to push me back. And then I'm going to go
Right.
back to my old ways. And it's so easy to fall into your old ways. Like real
it
easy.
just takes one situation. Yeah, one comment, one
Mhm.
situation. You like, wait a minute, they said what?
I want to know more.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it was again, it was hard, and I had to challenge myself to be assertive in these certain situations because I know it's like, hey, Eugenia, when it comes to these, particular group of people, you kind of let them walk on you. You don't let them, have a boundary per se. So for me, it was just a challenge for myself because I'm like, how can I run a business if I can't set clear boundaries with people that are
Mhm.
close to me? These are people that I
Right.
love. So if I can't have difficult conversations with the people that I love, how am I going to have these difficult conversations? How, because these, business relationships eventually, if everything goes well, they'll be
Mhm.
long term. There are going to be more personal interactions. And so it's like learning how to set that boundary early so you don't have to go back and retrace and like, hey, wait, I think we got off on the
Right.
wrong foot. So that was my mindset. Like I have to train my way of thinking and train myself, not just for now, but in the future. In anything I
Right.
do.
I'm just so impressed with,
Me
like,
too.
with how you, like, took it and ran with it, like, how you took that information from therapy and just implemented it and ran with it. Because sometimes, I go to therapy and I'm like, "Oh, this is great information," and then I come home and then I'm like, "Yeah, but that's really hard."
And you have those moments. Like I think honestly, I will be so brutally honest with you guys. I think the hardest conversation I had to have was about my love
Mhm.
life. And I
Mm,
had to, from my therapist, like, hey, this is not normal communication between
Yeah.
a couple. This is not how it's supposed to work. You can't carry the weight on the world on your shoulders. Like, y'all
mhm.
should be sharing
Right.
that weight. And that was like, oh my God, because it's like, we have a family. So how
Yeah.
am I going to have this conversation? Is this going to be the end of my family? Is this going to change my family dynamic? And I just had to trust the process. And I had to also understand that the person that I'm talking to, they're not healed. So don't be mad at them. It's going to hurt. It is
Mhm.
hard, but you're talking to someone that's not in the process of healing. Y'all are
Yeah.
kind of speaking two different languages right now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
That is
Such a
so
good point.
true.
Because you can get frustrated and be like, "Why are you not understanding what I'm saying?" And then you're like, "Wait a minute. Right. Like, I've been through doing all of this work and, have spent all this time reflecting and I'm finally getting to this point where I say it out loud when I've been, like, going through all of this for sometimes even weeks, and then it finally comes out and they, can react one way or another, and I know with my husband, he and I have a very, very close relationship, and even the first time that, I kind of, like, spoke up and said, like, "Here's how I would like to argue with you from now on," which is like it's like a weird conversation to have, but it's like, instead of using
Right.
always and never, and instead of saying this, I want can we say, "Oh, this is making me feel this way," and he was just like, "What?" He's like, "Are you what do you mean that's how you wanna argue? What are you talking about?" And I was like, "No, like, if we're having a conversation." So, yeah, and he was kind of frustrated with it at first because he's like, I don't know, like, are you saying that I hurt you? Are you saying," all of these things you have to work through, so it's kind of it's a scary thing. It's a real scary thing.
It really is. It really is. I would say one tip I picked up, and I actually picked it up off of social media. This guy was talking about his marriage. And the tip that I stole from his advice, he was like, when my wife is venting, we came to an agreement. I asked her, because this can change the course of our conversation. Are you looking for a resolution
Yes.
or do you need? And he
Oh,
was like, asking that
Yes.
question changed their communication. And I was like,
uh,
somebody got it
I
right.
have goosebumps
So
all over my arms, like, that is such a g I'm
I
stealing that too.
I say that to my boyfriend
I
all the
stole
time. I
it.
say because he's a fixer, and I think that sometimes I'm like, "That is not how you fix it." Like, I just don't even want that's not what I wanted. So I say, "Listen, I don't need a solution. I don't need you to do anything about this, but I have to talk about it." And that makes it so much better because then it's like, I don't have to hear and in that space of where I'm at and how upset I am, I think it's just dumb whatever he says in response as a solution. I'm like, "That is so dumb." So then, like, that leads to a whole nother argument that didn't need to happen. So, if he's just like, okay, I love you. It's okay. I'll give you a hug. Want me to rub your back? Okay. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. That's all I want at that moment in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes that's true because there are situations, and I've had to have this conversation in my relationship. I'm like, okay, love, everything doesn't require an emotional response. Some things just require a solution. That's it. We don't have to sit down and just, turn on candles and cry together. Like, we don't have to do that. Some stuff just requires just a simple solution because he's a
Yeah.
fixer too. He wants to, it's like, oh my God, she's angry. Oh my God, she's, like, what can I do? And it's like, no, you don't
Yeah.
have to do that. We can just, and so that question, like, just changed. Like, that was our little agreement. Like, hey, we need to go get this notarized. Like, this is our agreement. We need to ask this question. Do you want a resolution or do you want support? Because if I say I just need support, now you know what to do. And now we're not fighting because I think that your brain doesn't
Right.
work.
Oh, that is so accurate.
Oh God.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be in an argument, and I'm like, "What? Wait a minute, what is going on? Wait, what
It's like,
just
"Are you
happened?"
okay?"
Are we in the
Yeah,
same
I'm
space? Are we
like,
here together?
Yeah.
exactly. You are. Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. Who's the star of the show right now? Me or you? I lost track. Like, what's going on?
Oh, that's
Wow.
fabulous.
Oh, that's so good. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Yes. And it was so
Okay,
good to
so
talk to you.
yeah, but so Amy and I are big, we're big lipstick
Big,
fans.
huge. It's like
We always, always, always have lips on, no
always.
matter what.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
So I
Tell
just
me
wanna
more.
hear, like, why you're so passionate about, like, the lipstick aspect of it. And what? Go ahead.
I just want to know more about it, like your favorite colors, like which we should
Yeah.
try
We have to know
first.
we have to
Where
know
do we
about the
where do we
lipsticks.
dive in? Because you
Yes.
know that we're gonna dive in now.
Okay. Okay, that's cool with me. I would say the reason why lipstick for me, again, I was 26 when I started wearing lipstick. And again, back to the African American community, there are so many women who feel like certain colors don't look good on them because their lips
Oh,
are too
Oh,
full or they feel like their skin
no.
is too dark. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We're going to change the
Yeah.
yeah.
narrative of this. Like, you're not too dark. You're not too, you're not too fair. Cause some women are like, oh my God, I'm so light. This just jumps out at you. And it's like,
Yeah.
good. Like, yeah, let
That's
your lips
right.
jump out. That, like, I love it. So lipstick was so important to me because one, I was late to the game.
Mhm.
Everybody left me out. I didn't know. And then two, I want to change the narrative around lips because I mean, some people feel like my lips aren't big enough or, my lips are too big. And it's like, no, you are beautiful. Like you are beautiful. Like a shade of lipstick doesn't determine your beauty. Like you can wear any color you want to. You can, it
Right.
doesn't matter if it's pink, orange pink, like it doesn't matter. Like lipstick is that final
Yes.
pop that just changes the
Yeah.
entire face. It changes your entire look. I don't care how good your foundation is, how beautiful your eyeshadow is, like how long the lashes are. If you don't have that pop of color on those lips, it just doesn't finish it
I
off
agree.
well.
Agreed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got two big fans here.
And my favorite one,
Yes, what's your
oh
favorite?
yes, chili mauve
Well,
is
that's
my
what you said.
favorite.
That's what you said. I'm
Um,
writing these down here.
that's that's my favorite. And then I've never worn like out of the box color lipstick, but the
So
amethyst, it's like a
pretty.
deep purple. Oh, and it's like my favorite one
Yeah.
to wear. And then again, I have fuller lips. Me and 2 out of 3 of my children, we have eczema
Oh,
really
yeah.
bad. So when I wear lipstick, I notice with the matte lipsticks, like it literally just drains the life out of
Mhm,
your lips.
mhm.
Like by the end of the day, they're like raisins
Yes.
because it's dry. It dries your lips out. So I wanted a product that lasted long, the color was high pigmented, but you didn't have that
Mm,
Mhm.
cracking, like that, your lips feel drawn together. Like my lipstick doesn't do that. And that was another thing that was very important to me because I'm like, if someone is in a meeting, like, you're doing your podcast, you're talking to people, like you don't want to talk and you like, wait a
You
minute.
got some crusting happening.
My lips,
Great.
did you see that? Yeah, like, oh
Yeah.
my God. So that was something important to me. So just my story and me just discovering lipsticks and hearing people just complain. I'm like, no, I'm going to change that. No, we're all going to look beautiful.
I
All of
love
oh,
us.
I
that.
love it.
And you have on your website, I think it's forgive me if I get this wrong, but it says a shade for every shade, right? Is that what it's
Yes, shades for all
Oh,
shades.
I
shade for all
love
shades,
that. I
yeah.
love that.
Like empowering and I think
Yeah,
there was like this big, movement of like, no makeup. I'm not wearing makeup anymore. And my kids actually be like, "Why are you putting on makeup? You're so pretty, mommy." And I'm like, "It's my self-expression." Like I feel like putting on a color on my lips makes me feel like it gives me more of like I'm like, "Yeah, I can take on today." Like
exactly. Because I mean, let's be honest. When you look good,
yeah.
you feel good, and that translates into how you just present yourself for the rest of the day. It translates into your
Yeah.
whole outlook, your personality, how you come off. So sometimes even when I'm working from home, and my kids
Yeah.
like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I just want to put on some makeup. I want to put
Yeah.
on some clothes. I want to feel like I'm still here
Yes.
in, in
Yes.
society, and it's just that. And then, so yeah, I totally get it. Like I'm all for the, fresh face. Yeah. Like you don't have to wear makeup every day to be considered beautiful. But if you do wear it, every day, that doesn't make you
Right.
less
Right.
beautiful
Right.
either. Like that is like a
Mhm.
self-expression. Like lipstick is like
Mhm.
earrings for some people. I cannot live without earrings. Like I was like, I think I need to start that next because I cannot live. Like I feel like, oh my God, phone, wallet, what's missing?
Earrings.
Yeah,
Earrings.
that's
Missing
so
my
funny
earrings.
because that's Sarah and I were earrings, lips,
And
and
lipstick.
earrings, lips,
Shoes.
and nails. We like
Oh, yeah.
I can't go without that either. Like I could wear sweats as long as I have my lipstick on and some big earrings on. Like that's it. Like makes me so happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I don't have my nails done, I'm like, oh my God, don't look at my hands. And they're like, what's wrong? I'm like, no, please don't
Yeah.
look at my
This is not who I am.
hands. No, I'm like, don't look at me based off of this, please. So I totally get it. Now I cannot leave my house without wearing a tinted gloss or a lipstick. And of course, I wear my brand more now because it's just, I'm
You
proud
should
of it.
be.
I love it. I stand by it. I would never, ever, ever sell anything to someone that I personally don't believe in. And it's not something that's
Right.
important to me. I would never do that.
That's awesome.
Wow. We'll put the link for sure.
We'll definitely put the link, and I'm gonna buy that chili mauve, and maybe I'm gonna give the amethyst a little second look, because I looked at that too. I was like, oh, that's pretty.
I promise you're gonna love it. I promise.
See, I just put whatever lipstick on too, because I'm like glow in the dark white. So I like this is like necessary for me to like show up in pictures.
Oh my goodness. I cannot.
So I'm like all excited about all the different shades. I was like, oh, I want them all. So yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, I love it. I honestly, this like you guys are
So
hilarious. Like y'all are so personal. Thank you. This is awesome. I don't even feel like I'm like, I'm like, okay.
Oh no,
no.
not with us. No, it's
No.
pretty laid back. We are
Yeah.
definitely going to have to hang out again and do something else together.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think the only thing we were missing was like some queso or
Yeah.
something. We
Yes.
had a good time.
Yes.
Right.
Queso is like a staple in my household.
When Sarah and I, when
Mine
we're allowed
too.
to like do this again, and Sarah and I are on the road traveling with our podcast, we will come see you.
We'll come see you in Dallas.
Absolutely. I'm here for it. I'm ready.
Yes,
Let's do
yes.
it.
So I just want to say again, so you can find Therapy Changed My Business on Amazon. Is there anywhere else that we can find your book?
As of right now, it is on Amazon. I'm in the process of getting it on my website, but right now, if you want to buy the book,
On
it will be on
Amazon. Okay,
Amazon.
awesome. And then when you get it on your website, because it'll do better for you coming from there, I'm sure, you'll get us the link and we'll switch it out in the show notes so people can find it easily. But we'll link the book for you,
Absolutely.
and you can learn more about Eugenia's journey through her therapy and how it changed her business, and from what we've learned, her life and the lives of those around
people
her.
around you. Oh my gosh, that's just unbelievable. So incredible and so powerful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And we're gonna link your Dymanz Glaze website as well, so that if you are a lippy, I don't know, try to think. A lip head? I don't know. What are we going to call these?
It's fine. Lippy's good. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Glazers. Yes, you're glazers. Oh, I love it. So become a glazer. Go to Dymanz Glaze. It's DYMANZ GLAZE.com. Dymanz Glaze. And we'll put that in the show notes too. And then, you know what? You guys should put up a picture on social media, tag Eugenia, tag Unqualified Therapist, and, put a little hashtag of I'm a glazer.
We will repost you.
Yeah, we'll repost you.
Yes, certainly. I will repost you. I'm like, hey, glazer.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Eugenia.
No, thank you guys for having me. It was a blast. Thank you.
Say it now, play it proud, shout it out, make it when we go.